Hi, this is the annotated bibliography assignment, and I'm sure this is the assignment that you have all been really excited about and looking forward to the most. Everybody loves to do an annotated bibliography. Assignment objective, obviously, is locate and identify appropriate literature. That's what you're going to be doing for this one. An annotated bibliography is really a collection of resources. It's kind of like your reference list, except you add information after each reference. You add about a paragraph that describes the main points. You're going to summarize what's important about that particular source, the main points, how the study was conducted, just some good information about it. You're also going to have some evaluation that you're going to add a sentence or two after that. One thing to keep in mind is when you do the annotated bibliography, you're not going to put down every single research study that you read. One of the most interesting, frustrating, I'm not sure which, parts of doing research is you need to read 2 or 3 articles for every article that you find that is actually useful. So you might end up reading 2 or 3 times as many articles or books or summaries as what you put in the annotated bibliography. Your bibliography should only have the very important sources, the things that are directly related. So make sure you're not throwing stuff in there. If I'm reading through and I see that I'm going to have 20 different things in there, and I'm seeing that you're throwing stuff in just because it makes the list longer, you're going to lose some points on that, because the point of this is to go through and really find the stuff that's relevant. Find the research that's quality, that's going to be directly useful when you get ready to do your review of the literature. So, first of all, you have to have a research topic, and you know what you want to do. And what I'd like you to do is just email me what your topic is. You might have to do a little bit of research before you send that email, because you might not know exactly where you want to go. For instance, maybe you're interested in positive behavior interventions and support, but you don't know exactly what you want to do in that. You can't write an action research on PBIS, it's too big. So maybe you do a little bit of research just to narrow that down. That's fine. But don't do too much research until you get approval from me, because the worst thing would be is if you went halfway through this project and then you send me a research topic and that's not going to work. And then you wasted a whole bunch of time. And we all know we don't want to waste time, especially this semester when you're as busy as you are. So email me your research question, even if you don't have it all the way nailed down. Maybe you're struggling and you're like, I think I want to go in this area, but I'm not really sure what to do. I'm going to ask you some questions, and we can have a little bit of dialogue to help you really narrow down what you want to do. So make sure you email me that research question first, and you get a response from me before you go too far with this. And you can do that anytime. You don't have to wait. If you know at the beginning of the semester where you want to do your research, that's fine. Send me the email, and we can start talking right away. Okay, so once you have it approved, now you want to begin or continue your research. Most of your research needs to come from peer-reviewed journals or scholarly books. I don't expect that you're going to necessarily sit down and read an entire book, but there might be a chapter in the book. It might be an edited volume, and maybe there's one portion there that's useful to you. But most of it should be peer-reviewed journals or scholarly books. You might find some other kinds of resources. So you might find, there might be a website or two. If you're researching autism, the START website is awesome. So you might have some other information. That's okay. But a vast majority of your resources need to come from peer-reviewed journals and scholarly books, because that's the focus of this course. Okay, so you're going to find the best of the best. You're going to find the items that really tie into your research question. They very directly tie in. They significantly tie in. It's not just, they kind of touch on it. It's necessary for you to cite this in order to frame your problem. When you do your summary paragraph, you're going to also describe how the source relates to your topic. So that's going to be pretty brief. You're evaluating this. You're going to give me a description of the article. You're going to tell me, yes, this is a quantitative study. It involved blah, 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 blah. And then give me a sentence or two about why does that matter? Why did you include that in your annotated bibliography? Why does that have impact on your research question? So again, a sentence or two. It doesn't have to be real long. I'm going to go down to the rubric. All right, so the first section, the most points here are the annotations themselves. The annotations need to clearly and succinctly identify each source's argument, sources of evidence, methodology, and target audience. You might have 1 or 2 items here in this list that you can't answer all those questions, and that's okay. For instance, let's say you use the START website that I mentioned earlier. You can certainly tell me the sources of evidence for some of that site. You can tell me the target audience, but that's not really a study, so you're probably not going to have methodology. I mean, you're talking about a website. There's no method to the website. The argument, kind of, maybe, the point of having that website is to increase knowledge. It's not really an argument, but it's close. So you might have one or two things that don't quite fit into that, and that's okay. I'm not going to mark you down. But if it's a peer-reviewed journal article or a scholarly book, then you will have responses to each one of those things. So when you look over here to the partial points, if I see a peer-reviewed article and you don't have the source of evidence listed, you are going to lose points on that because the peer-reviewed article does have source of evidence. If it doesn't, then it's probably not a good research study that you want to use. So that might kind of help you to judge what's important and not important. Also, you'll note that this is a little bit different. I usually have the spelling and grammar listed on the bottom here, and you'll notice that I have it embedded within this cell. So when I'm looking at your annotations, instead of having this in a separate category, I am going to just have this incorporated throughout. So make sure you don't have grammar, spelling, or stylistic errors. This is relatively short. You're not going to have 20 pages here, so I'm not giving you a lot of wiggle room when it comes to errors. You're talking about a paragraph for each one, so there really should not be any grammar errors or spelling errors. And then make sure you have your APA citations correct. And again, since we're not looking at a lot here, I don't give you a lot of wiggle room. Your APA citations are basically going to be the cited resource. You're not doing any in-text citations or things like that. Also, by the time you've done this assignment, you should have had quite a bit of experience with APA, writing papers, getting some feedback from me, so I'm expecting a little bit more from you at this point. Going down to the relevance. After you do your annotation, you're going to tell me why you chose that source, why is that relevant, why is that important, and so I just need to make sure that that's clear and that I can see the value. So make sure that you have a nice clear connection there. Now, when you look at your sources, I would like you to have at least 8 total sources. You might end up with more than this when you do your actual review of the lit and your proposal, but for this purpose, I'd like you to have 8 or more. At least 5 need to come from peer-reviewed journals, and at least 1 is a scholarly book, and then no more than 2 web resources. So I want to make sure you understand that when I'm talking about web resources, I'm not talking about full-text online articles. If you find a peer-reviewed journal article and it's available full-text online, that does not count as a web resource. Because of your hours, I'm going to guess that a vast majority of your resources are going to be full-text web articles, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. When I'm talking about web resources, I'm talking about websites and things like that. So just want to make sure that's clear. You don't have to come in and get paper copies of journals. In fact, we have some journals that you can't get paper copies of. They're only available online through our library. So that's okay. Just want to make sure that you understand that. And then when we look at points here, they're either you did this, you hit those 8 sources with the 5 and the 1 and no more than 2, or you mostly did, or you didn't do it at all. So this one, there's not a lot of text in those boxes because it's pretty straightforward. Okay, any questions as you move through, please let me know as soon as possible.